Welcome to today's episode. Let's talk about today's guest. We have Jeremy from FEITIAN, Growth Marketing Manager with them. How are you doing today, Jeremy?
Hey, thanks so much. Really glad to be here, Ernesto. Appreciate you having me on.
It's great to have you on, and we're a little bit excited, and I'm sure our listeners are tuning in, wondering what FEITIAN is all about. So, in your own words, Jeremy, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So FEITIAN essentially offers identity and authentication hardware products for a wide range of enterprises and highly regulated industries as well. Obviously, cybersecurity is a huge issue that a lot of these larger and even smaller companies realistically have a real threat of facing. So what we do is we help strengthen their security posture against authentication-based threats.
Definitely. Okay, perfect. Awesome. And so then that way our listeners who are tuned in could get a good understanding of FEITIAN then. If you were to say one key problem that you guys like to solve, or what would that be? Or various problems?
Yeah, absolutely. It would essentially be identity-based authentication. So, for example, anytime you need to use one of those two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication methods to log into something from a hardware perspective, FEITIAN provides those hardwares. The problems that we're solving are identity-based attacks for, essentially cyber hacks.
Okay, perfect, awesome. And so then, is there a certain vertical? Is there an ideal ICP for FEITIAN that you guys like to go for?
So we definitely work a lot with enterprises, but as far as high assurance goes, it ranges. We work with healthcare, banking, government, critical infrastructure. So a lot of these highly regulated industries have strict, regulations that they have to abide by, and that also has to do with their cybersecurity posture. We provide the products that help them strengthen that posture, and then also meet those regulation standards as well.
Okay, awesome to hear that. And so that way, is there a top client acquisition channel for you guys? How would somebody usually find out about FEITIAN?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a pretty well-known global presence just from our position in the market. We've worked with a lot of within the industry, a lot of the people that are really up there. For example, the FIDO Alliance, we're board members on that. Essentially, that is an authentication standard. I'm starting to throw a little bit of jargon out
Yeah.
there, but what we do for that is essentially we work with a lot of the channels that are really involved with this audience, and then essentially piggyback on those audiences, getting a lot of referrals from those partner channels. So that global audience has helped us establish a pretty strong, essentially organic channel where people will come and find our brand attached to a lot of those other partner brands.
Definitely. Okay, awesome to hear that. And so that way our listeners who are tuned in can go ahead and visit you. You could always check them out at ftsafe.us.
Yep.
.us. Definitely. What role then does the website play for client acquisition?
client the website is essentially where we gather all of that data. The funnel that we have built funnels all of our lead generation through our website specifically, and so that is because we have a lot of control over not only what that user flow looks like, but also the data that we capture in that process as well. Obviously, privacy regulations are changing, and that's getting a little bit more difficult to navigate. And so if we have the funnel essentially now, the funnel going through the website, we can use that to, like I said, enhance the user experience, and then also gather as much data as we can on what that engagement looks like, especially when it comes to content engagement. A lot of, essentially gated content is what works really well for us in terms of understanding what our audience is looking for and what our audience is engaging with, more so than on social media or on a blog or on any other type of forum. That specific channel through our website is something that gives us a lot of intel and information on what our audience interaction looks like.
All right, great. And on that note, is there then any types of tools or tips or methods that you would recommend to our listeners as far as some website lead generation?
Oh man. Tips, tools, and tricks. I think it really comes down to storytelling. A lot of people, a lot of the businesses that I work with, they get caught up in trying to showcase the immediate value that your product or service brings, which is great, but that only addresses one specific part of the funnel. Your website also needs to be able to address more of the top and middle of the funnel as well, in terms of people are searching for problems and they don't understand what their problem is, right? So if you help them understand what their problem is and then potential solutions to to that problem. That's how you lead them from the top of the funnel through to where your value actually comes into play, right? Because once they understand what their problem is, they can start to understand what potential solutions are. And that's where you can start to talk about how you are a potential solution for the problem. And on top of that, if you're not talking about what the problems are and helping them understand what the problem is, you can get a lot of essentially not very well qualified leads, right? You're going to get people who don't necessarily understand what problems they have, and then you're going to have to help them understand that through your qualification process rather than through your website design and your content.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Great to hear that, those tips and methods that you got going on there, and for our listeners to get a little bit of some tips there from you. Let's switch gears a little bit then, Jeremy, and let's talk about you as a leader, you being the growth marketing manager there for FEITIAN. What are some key tasks you'd like to focus on your day-to-day work?
So I like to really focus on growth and funnel analytics, essentially determining what portions of the funnel are converting, which aren't, and then how to improve that. And then I also work a lot on content as well, and then how content plays a role in that funnel as well. So, essentially taking a whole look at the funnel, analyzing it piece by piece and understanding where we can improve in that process, because it's not just about generating leads, it's about generating good leads.
Yep, and I think that's super important, right? And with all the information going on out there, is there any type of a channel that you would go to primarily get more what's trending or to stay up to date in the marketing world?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can always go check out any of the stuff that I'm posting on LinkedIn, because I think that I do a fairly good job of sharing a lot of that content. And I listen to a lot of podcasts as well. Just to name a few, like the Diary of a CEO or Lenny's podcast, I think are two really good ones from a very top level leadership type of a perspective, especially for product management for Lenny's podcast. And then there are a bunch of growth and marketing podcasts out there as well. I probably listen to too many podcasts. I probably need to give my brain a little bit of a break sometime. I'm the kind of guy that I'll listen to them on 2x speed just so I can catch up on all my content.
Definitely. Okay, awesome. Great to hear that. And then, then let's jump into our next section here, Jeremy, which is our rapid fire questions round. Are you ready for them?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. First off, Jeremy, what is the last book that you read?
Okay, well, I'm going to count this one just because I'm on the epilogue. So I've essentially finished it. But it's called The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. That is not business related.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Great read there. Next up is, what is one single thing that your company is focused on at the moment the most?
Is this in terms of serving our audience, or is this more of an internal question?
The internal question.
Yeah, absolutely. So from my perspective, what we're definitely focusing on is creating a standard operating procedure for our lead processing. Now that we're starting to, and again, we're like a fairly new to put together team that is fairly small. So we're figuring out, now that we've created a very good lead generation cycle. Now we are coming to the determination of, okay, great, we've got hot leads. What do we do with those, right? How do we process those, and how do we do that efficiently? And so that's where I think a majority of the focus is from an internal perspective. We have a major event coming up, a trade show event at RSA conference in San Francisco. And so that's where a lot of my personal focus has been lately, but that's not necessarily everybody else's issue.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Awesome. The next up, Jeremy, is, if there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be that one thing that you want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today?
It's a really great question. I think that it's getting harder to gather really good data given all of the privacy issues. So if there were no well, I don't know if this is a boundary in technology or if it's a boundary in legislation or rights or what. If there was an endless amount of data that I could have and create a sandbox and play with, that would be where I would love it. But ethical data tracking and management, I think, would probably be the limitless technology that I would look for.
Okay, awesome, great. Next is, if there's one repetitive task that you could automate, what would that be?
So it's funny, after I write content, I always have to schedule it to post and, reformat it in whatever tool I'm using. I wish that after I created content, it would just magically format correctly and go post or schedule to post on whatever tool I'm using.
That's very interesting, right? I think I think there's a lot of people, in the same boat. So, I mean, if someone's hearing, right, that would be great to have, right, for content creators, right?
And,
Awesome.
I don't think we're too far away from something like that happening. It's just a matter, there's probably something that you could create where it's like I write something in Google Docs and then use Zapier to create it here.
Great.
There's probably something along those lines. We're almost there. We're almost there.
Yep, definitely. And well, lastly, Jeremy, I mean, you have a lot of experience already in the marketing world, but what is that one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer today?
Do not be afraid of failure. In marketing, there really is, I don't want to say no such thing as failure because there absolutely is, but in marketing, it's all about testing. It's all about learning. You're going to fail, but it's only a failure if you're not learning from it, especially when it comes to marketing. And that was something that, especially as a younger marketer coming up, I really struggled with, man, because I thought everything had to hit. I thought everything had to just go like work the way I wanted it to work to be successful. And that's how you know I was a good marketer. And that's not how it works. To really be a good marketer, you really have to understand how to take those trials and tribulations and turn it into what you are trying to create, which is something that resonates with an audience. Right. So I think that would be the piece of advice I'd go back and tell myself.
Definitely. Okay, great advice there, Jeremy. And well, Jeremy, we are coming to the end of the show here, but I do want to give you the last word. If someone forgets everything about the interview today, what is that one thing they should remember about your company?
The one thing to remember about FEITIAN Technologies is that we help you strengthen your security across all of your social or cyber channels, whether that's your Google account for your personal, or whether that's your enterprise Microsoft Entra ID account. We help you understand the security that it takes to protect yourself and your company from cyber hacks.
There, you guys heard it. You can always visit them at ftsafe.us. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for being on. Thank you to our listeners for thank you for being on. And I'm looking forward to our next episode at Pathmonk Presents. Thanks a lot, Jeremy.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, Ernesto.